Let's take a quick look at the essay, and let's look at exactly what the essay is and why is that thesis so important and what is it. The word essay comes from the French word which means an attempt or a try. So if you've been reading examples, you probably have already seen in your textbook that essays can come in many forms. We're going to do 2 essays in this quarter. We're going to start with the process essay, which is what we're beginning this week, and we'll move on for the last 6 weeks into a research persuasive essay. So at this point, you're going to see this particular example that we have right here is of an informational essay, but it really is giving, the examples will be of an informational essay, but it's giving you an overall look at exactly what an essay is, and you need to grasp what an essay is, how the thesis fits into it, and why it's so important. They're not usually long. Essays are usually just 5 paragraphs can be an essay. You might have studied that already in school, or it can be longer. But in our case, our essay that we are doing as a process essay will only be 2 to 3 pages. And then we will get to the last essay, which will be 3 to 5. So you see, it's not as if you're going to do a research paper. An essay is not a research paper, nor is it organized the same way. So let's look at the organization, and we see that it's composed of paragraphs that discuss the main ideas pertaining to the thesis. All right? And the thesis is the writer's point or reason for writing the paper. It also contains the pattern that the writer is going to follow in order to prove that that point is true for the reader in his or her eyes. So we begin with an introductory paragraph, okay, that leads off, and that locates the reader into the subject, and it goes on until it ends with the thesis statement, which is a sentence that tells the reader what to expect if he or she keeps on reading the paper. There you go. Once you get that into the last sentence of your first paragraph, your introduction, then what do you have? As the writer, you have a road map. As a reader, you have a road map. You know exactly what's coming, and you know what the writer is going to be doing. The only thing you don't know is how the writer will build those body paragraphs. So here's an example. The world's climate has changed significantly in the last 60 years, and it creates temperature fluctuations, rising or falling sea levels, and natural disasters. So do you see that once you have this sentence, you understand as the reader what's happening, and you understand as the writer exactly what you need to do. You need to have a body. You need to go on then and create all of the props that actually prove that what you're saying there in that example is actually true. And you're going to do it in terms of creating temperature fluctuations, rising or falling sea levels, and natural disasters. So that you now consider 3 or more paragraphs that takes one element of support, right? These here are your pattern for development here, okay? You take one each, right? And you write 5 to 8 sentences, because we now know what a paragraph does. Remember, that's why we studied it. And you realize that there you go. You are actually in great shape to know what's coming and what happens next. So here's the example of the topic sentence, okay, that relates to that thesis that we just did. Whether one believes in whether the increase in global warming is a result of man-made conditions or natural ones, the facts of warming are indisputable. Where are we going? We're going right up here to number 1, aren't we? And we're getting ready to discuss it with 4 or 5 body sentences that stick to that one idea and that give examples of global warming, that give stats, that gives quotes, that give tables, that discuss the main idea, that one idea, which is a supporting element of the thesis statement. And then we finish up a paragraph with a concluding sentence, and that concluding sentence wraps it up or introduces the next paragraph. So we do that through the body, and we get to finally a concluding paragraph, And that paragraph wraps up the whole essay and goes back to the thesis. Everything here goes back to the thesis in one way or another. So this is where it's good that if you took your introduction and you did your nice general comments to get that reader, say, away from the TV and into reading your essay and talking about your substance, your topic, then you have something to go back to and expand that paragraph that's going to wrap it up, because essentially you're telling the reader, this is what I did, this was my thesis statement, and now it's goodbye and sayonara. So you see what you've done?